In this video, folks, I'm going to show you how to replace a strut on a Nissan Leaf. I've done the other side last year, I'm doing this side today. Symptoms are some quite low, subtle knocking sounds, and I believe the insert there is a bit floppy on the existing strut, or it's the shiny bit which sticks at the top has a little bit of a wobble on it. So actually it's gone through an MOT like this, but it is slowly getting worse. So apparently they don't pick it up on an MOT, but I'm going to change it anyway. So that's the part that looks similar, which is a good starting point. So I'm going to get that one off, deal with compressing the spring and the bearing at the top and all that off the car, and then put the whole thing back as an assembly. I'm going to show you the whole thing. Hopefully it'll give you the confidence to do it in your garage as well.
Obviously these jobs start with getting the wheels off. Nice and quick here with the impact wrench. If you don't have one, folks, get an impact wrench. They're fantastic as a kit. That's it, you don't need to do anything special. I'm not really getting under the car either, so I didn't use any jack stands or axle stands. So off with the ABS, off with the brake hose, just needed a little bit of persuasion. And then I'm going to clean up the thread on this anti-roll bar, which was a bit of a fight. I managed to loosen it with the impact, and then it was difficult to get that nut to move down the shaft. So I did put the Allen in there, as you can see, and then a spanner over the edge, which is how you should do it. And then of course the Allen key rounded off, didn't it? So that was a real pain in the arse, and I'll show you how I dealt with it.
Ah, brilliant. That's rounded off nicely.
I just got some mole grips on the back. I managed to get mole grips that were narrow enough that they didn't damage the rubber gaiter. And then the impact did the rest of the job.
Yeah! That's how we do that. Have I damaged it? No. Fantastic.
So that is it for stuff to come off, except for now the main mounting bolts, top and bottom. So there's these two at the bottom, stick a bit of copper slip on them, clean them all up, and here we go.
That's it, the strut is off. Look at that. So it is now only being held on at the top. Let's get to work on the top.
So up comes a clip, and then there's the bottom of a Greek yogurt pot, 1 kilo, that I used to stop the water getting in and rusting that nut and thread in the centre. But I'm not going to be tackling that in the car. I'm just going to undo those 3 bolts around the outside, which are nice and easy to get off. Just a bit awkward, but there is plenty of room to swing a spanner in there.
Cobweb.
So yeah, there's the first bolt out, and they came out nice and easily, really. Second bolt, and then as you can see, as I loosen it, it all becomes quite wobbly. You can see the top of the strut moving now, look in that shot, and then you can see the bottom obviously swinging around as I loosen it off. And that's it, the whole thing is free from the car.
And rather satisfyingly, it looks the same as the one I've ordered, which is great news. It's got the brake line thing on the same side, these 2 clips for the ABS sensor, and the anti-roll looks in the same place, although this one's bigger, it doesn't really matter. The spring seat ends there.
So compressor springs, you gotta have these spring compressors. I mean, you can do it with ratchet straps, but it's a pain in the arse. It's really difficult. Get yourself some spring compressors if you're doing this job.
So there's the arrangement, a nut and a Allen again. What you really want is something like this, the right size, which I don't have. So I think last year I did the other side of the car. I made up something like this. Looks like a welder socket onto a spanner, but that doesn't fit either. So I can't remember how I did it. This, an old-fashioned socket. It's an 18mm, and some more grips, because I am running out of tools. There's probably a correct tool for this. You could weld a spanner onto that, but I quite like these sockets, so I'm not going to be welding them. That's tight. And I've just checked the Allen. That one's going to be do up. Ah, that's what I did before. Can you see I've ground it? I've ground the end of the socket down slightly, so I must have done this last year. So it fits inside that socket. Oh, there you go, it's working. Yeah, that's working. Beautiful. But of course now it's stuck. Okay, let's sock it out a bit. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic.
This it wasn't too tight. The torque setting on this from the factory obviously isn't too tight, so it wasn't too bad to do. You might just be able to do it with this with an open-ended spanner. I don't know.
That's off. Excellent.
Like, off comes the nut, and then the top of the strut.
This is the bearing. There's the spring, and this rubber I will reuse as well. Guessing I'll need this because the new one does not have it. That's in good shape. That's in great shape. That's going to protect the new strut. This is what's been making the noise in the car. Yeah, you can see it. Look. It's funny, it's been doing that for a year and it's really not very bad. Oh, it's worse that way. Yeah, it's much worse that way. Lovely. Alright, this is not our restoration, this is just our daily driver, so that's clean enough. Fits on there nicely. It's just the spring going back on. The bearing. Press A.
On goes a little gator thing. I did start worrying about the alignment of this component, but to get it straight on the car, but you can turn it obviously because it's meant to be able to turn with the steering, so just slap it on there, don't worry about it.
Wicked, I haven't missed a bit. So I've used the spanner. Yeah, the mole grips on the socket only got me so far. I was able to put the spanner in there and get quite a bit more torque on it. So I feel like that's nice and tight now, especially as I was able to undo it with this method anyway. And I've removed the spring compressor, made sure everything's seated as I did so. The spring there is in the right place. So now I'm going to put it back on the car.
There we go, back she goes. So start in the reverse order of how I took it off with those 3 bolts in from the top. There's plenty of room in there to get them on.
With all those tight, we're done in there. We don't need to revisit that area.
Yeah baby, shut the bonnet.
It's all down here now.
So with a slight bit of rotation, this was pretty easy to align. You can see it's not a tight fit in there. The bolt clamps that steel, that new steel down on that old forged part nice and tight, so they didn't need to make it a tight fit. So that's it, wind those bolts on. I use the impact on these ones. There's very little slop, so I just tightened them up. I didn't worry about trying to get any alignment. There's no there's no adjustment for alignment in the whole system, so just put it back together. The only thing to do is tracking afterwards. On goes the brake line.
I am just going to put it back together the way I took it apart. You can see there's room there to get the mole grips on without pressing hard against that rubber boot, so I think I'm just going to do it this way. Bingo. Folks, if you don't have one of these impacts, get yourselves an impact. They're magical bits of kit. Right, next, do yourselves a favour and turn the steering all the way one way so you expose as much of this as you can. And I'm just going to work on getting that loose now. So having cleaned the threads up, this should just come undone. Of course that's not going to happen. Of course it's not. Oh yeah, I think I've done it. Using that unusual tracking bar method. Yeah, there we go. It's coming undone.
So loosening that track run is in preparation for the tracking. I'm not going to do the tracking in this video, but I did then subsequently do the tracking on this car, and that was it. Job done then. The thing's finished. Very satisfying indeed.
That's all for this one, folks. I hope that's been useful to some of you. I won't go into tracking it now. You can do it yourself, but it's a different video really. So there you go. Enjoy.